afternoon, dear viewers of Divine Mercy TV. It's another Sunday, and what else can we be talking about, if not the most important? Family. Family is all we have. Family, the story of our origin. It's another Sunday, it's another special day, it's another Easter, it's another Christmas. We are coming together, especially as family. Are we not blessed? It's so wonderful to come from a family. That's why the Lord Jesus himself had to come to us through a family, the Holy Family of Nazareth. Today, we are talking family. And we are looking at one of those issues that disturb family from representing what God intended to have as family, or what God intends to have as family. So that together we should be looking at how we can make families be family, how we can make families be the mind of God, the mind of the church. So together we'll be sharing on this special Sunday with Daddy Nebs, Mr. Neba Michael Shu of St. John of God Parish, Bonadikombo. Welcome, Daddy Nebs.
Thank you, Madam. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon with you. And it has always been a pleasure for us to be together and share with our televiewers.
Yes, thanks very much, Daddy Nebs. Welcome, Madam Chinmolo. We are happy that you are here to celebrate this special Sunday with us as family.
Thank you, Mother. Good afternoon, dear televiewers. Good afternoon, Daddy Nebs. It has always been a pleasure to be with you guys on this platform, contributing to the upgrowth of the family, the domestic church.
Beautiful. Family is really what we have. It's really all that we have.
Yeah, as you say, it is the story of our origin.
Yes.
If we don't originate from the family, where else can we originate from?
Yes. And so each time you are in society, know that whatever you're doing, whatever reaction, whatever attitude, know that the children who come after you will possess what you have as a reflection of the family they are coming from. So let's talk family today, and let's see how we can make family better. We are talking about domestic violence, a cause for concern. That is why we are here today. And if we are talking about that, it's because we want to, as much as possible, reduce this issue of domestic violence in our homes. Welcome, Madam, again, and would really wish to have some basic definition of domestic violence so that our viewers will know the standpoint of our discussion.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you for inviting me on this fascinating topic. Domestic violence is just a common word that we hear every day. And I would like to put it simply as any behavior by a spouse or an intimate partner or an ex-partner that causes harm or injury to the other party. It is violent. It is a violent act. It is an aggressive behavior that happens within a home. So it typically involves a violent abuse of a spouse or a partner. It does not only refer to intimate partner relationship or to spouses, it can also be inflicted on other members of the family. Yes, the way other members of the family are treated amounts to domestic violence. If it is something that will injure them physically, emotionally, psychologically, or otherwise, sexually. So I think with that is a simple explanation that I can put forward for domestic violence.
Yes, I'm sure our listeners are having a general view of what this domestic violence is. Yes, Daddy Nebs, is there anything that you wish to add to this explanation of domestic violence before we look at the types of domestic violence?
Yeah, sure. Where I'm interested is in the definition where Madam just gave there. She touched something there very pertinent,
maybe.
Yes, very pertinent. where she talks of intimate partner violence. You see, in domestic violence, there is this issue of intimate partner violence. That is, you see, there is some controversy there where you are talking about intimacy and you're talking about violence at the same time. You see, you are in an intimate relationship. How does violence come in there?
Yeah.
You see it as some sort of a paradox, but that is the reality, and that shows the complex nature or the complex behavior of spouses in a relationship. And generally, why is there this domestic violence? This domestic violence is there because the person intimidating or the person who is imposing himself wants to have power over the other person.
Yeah.
Wants to have total control. Wants to control the way the other person is behaving. You see, so that is exactly where we're talking of this abuse. And Madam has already said it is generally physical, sexual, and all of that. So I will not be coming back to that, but that is where the issues is: intimate partner violence, the controversy, and then the person is imposing. And generally, in our context, in the African context, it is generally believed that it is the man who is generally violent towards the woman. Even though nowadays we are also seeing women who are
terribly violent
towards the men. Yes, when I'm saying I'm referring to the olden days when of our parents. Generally, they were the men who were taught to be violent towards their women, because you know the African woman is generally a docile woman, a well-behaved woman, loving mother. So generally, they are not violent. But nowadays, the situation is actually changing with the society of today. So this domestic violence is mutual now,
yes,
where the men attack and the women also attack very seriously.
Yes, Daddy, you are right. It is mutual, but you agree with me that the prevalence towards women is more than that
of
towards
the
men.
Okay.
So that is why most at times people feel that it is the men that are perpetrators. Some women too have been caught in the act, and we want to stand here to say that women were not created by God to be violent.
Yes, they were created to be helpers.
To be helpers.
Helpers of the men.
And to be caring in the family.
Exactly.
Yes. So.
Yes, and there's something that troubles me. Our culture holds it that the man is there to care for the family, to show love, to fend for the family. In the past days, to clear the farm, the woman holds the farm, they plant, they harvest. The man uses the money to care for the family, to build a house for the family, and the woman stays there with the children and take care of the children, let them grow to be responsible. You see, that is the picture of the culture we knew when we were growing.
Yes.
But something is happening and everything is just turning the other way around. Where is domestic violence coming from? What can we say is how did it originate? Because when you look at the way we grew up, or let me say our parents grew up, they grew up in a way that the mother is taking care of the father, the father is responsible for the well-being of the family, and the father knew that is his responsibility. The well-being of the family is his responsibility. The mother knew that love and care for the family is her responsibility. And abroad today, the way the West is fighting against violence, though it's all reflected on like the man being violent against the woman, but just looking at all of this, you seem not to know the culture from which domestic violence is coming from. Yes,
mother. We all agree that the picture of what we had yesterday is no longer what we have today, and the picture of a family was what you have painted there. The father was there, the head of the family. He takes care of everything. He provides shelter for the family, provides all the needs of the family. The mother was simply there to bear the children, which is not a small job, take care of them, and was just in the house to care
To
for
nurture for the
nurture
family.
for the family.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
where they gave the name housewife.
Housewife.
Maybe that is the origin of the name
But
housewife.
truly today the trend has changed, and you see, with the coming of the notion of women emancipation, women started taking up roles and taking up jobs out of the home to make up or to help
Yes.
their husbands meet up very well with the needs of the home. But this has really not been smooth the way it was supposed to be, because you find conflict now coming because you see a woman thinks that because I am bringing in much, I should have this kind of right, or as they are educated that they are supposed to have this right, they feel that it should be a power tussle at home and things. So we could still bring in much income, even more than our husband, and our homes are still stable
Yes.
and peaceful. Yes, that is what we are here to tell the women folk. If the problems in our homes is coming because we are not struggling to fetch, to augment what our husband then is not befitting at all.
Yes.
Yes, it's not befitting. I think that no matter what circumstances, our homes are supposed to be peaceful. Yes, and whatever we are involved in should come to make us more comfortable than coming to bring chaos.
Yes, bringing disorder in the family.
Yes. So because but the truth is that when you look at it now, the men are no longer taking their position the way it is supposed to be. When you talk with so many women, you find them being the masters of their home, not because they have taken the position of their husbands, but because the load of the family is on
their
them.
head. Yes.
It's on them. And so we begin to question, where is the role of the man? What is happening to the men now? Yes. And you see, this aggressiveness that is coming from women is because they are finding it difficult to face the present trend. Yes, which everything is weighing on them. Yes, sometimes you become angry, sometimes you become aggressive, sometimes you just put on a moody fashion that will not help the family to be happy and peaceful.
Yes.
Which is not supposed to be, because of what you are
Sometimes
going
you just feel used.
Yes, yes, and it is very, very bad when a woman feels used.
Yes.
It is very, very bad for herself and for the entire family. Yes. So these are the things that we are here just to let us know that in fact we are taught as families to bear our crosses together. Yes. The fact that we say that the family, when we are one, things will have to be nice. It is us to make it nice. It is not a miracle that will come from somewhere.
Yeah.
If we decide to make it nice, it will be nice. If you decide that it will be a battlefield, it will be a battlefield. In fact, on that wedding day, I'm sure we pledge to ourselves that we will be helpful to each other. So if you become in a situation where you are bringing in and it is difficult for your husband, I think that it is still normal for us to accommodate ourselves.
Sure.
Yes. So
Yeah, just to add something there, as you are asking, where did violence originate from? Yes. For me, I want to think that as in that definition, when you say that you want to have power and all of that, from what Madame Chinmolo was saying there, when the women started bringing in their own quota into the family economy, maybe because of that, you see the men, and when they started bringing in, they may, at that moment, perhaps they wanted to have their own say in the management of the family. And some men will not readily accept that. And since they will not readily accept that, there is that tendency that they may want to fight back. So at that moment, that can bring in that conflict, can bring in that, can be at the origin of that conflict where violence can creep into the family. So for me, it is not actually, when we look at the definition of violence and the research that we done on violence, we don't actually see the origin that it originated. For example, you can say that this thing originated from here precisely. It is difficult to find that out. But it is, since it is a behavior, it stems from different sources. That's from the way the people comport themselves. There are different factors that can come in to cause that violence. So the general, I think, it's from the behavior of the men wanting to impose on the women. That's how I feel that it is at that level where violence might have originated. The men wanted to impose that we are the heads of this family, even though God did not say that as head of the family. He was supposed to crush on your woman and say that you are not supposed to crush on her. You are not supposed to dominate her in everything.
You are just supposed to eat the gizzard.
Yeah.
Daddy.
Yeah, you see. So like that. But when the men see the women now trying to come up so that they can dialogue and work and come in the family, some of the men may look, I'm not saying all, some may look at it as a way of trying to overthrow them. So at that moment they resist, and then violence will normally creep in.
Yes. Sometimes even as we grow, we know that our mother takes care of the house. Our mother guides us together to take care of the house. She manages the home actually, and the father fends for the family. But looking at the difficult times and the women empowerment, women started getting to know, as she said, that if I get into economic activity, I can increase the income for my family. And as the woman gets into involvement in economic activity, she realizes that I can even bring in much money than I thought. When this woman brings in much money, sometimes the husband is happy. Some husbands are happy to see that their wife brings in money, and they put it together and manage their home, and their home blooms. You see, while some husbands feel like the real word, they are being overthrown.
They look at that as a challenge.
And family management will see that if one person has to work, let it be the person who can earn more money. If only one person has to work, let it be the person who can earn more money, so that the other person who cannot earn as much money instead manages the home with the assistance of the other. But the problem is that if a man feels that, if some men see that their wives earn more money than they do, they look at it as a negative challenge. They don't look at it as being advantageous to the family, for the family. And sometimes a woman earns more, or even they even earn about equal, and then by the time they rush from work, get to the house, the woman rushes that, let me prepare this, let me get this done for the family. You see some husbands, they join the woman, how can I help? What can I do? While you are doing that, let me raise the plates, and before long, food is on the table, both of them are eating, and they rest, and everybody is happy, and they are preparing for the next day. But some husbands, just the fact that you are working and earning money, and you get into the kitchen and you say, please help me, it means that that money has gone into your head.
Those things.
That money has gone into your head.
Even if the husband does not have that intention, the public will put him in that state. Because everybody who sees a good husband to a wife, they will always say that the woman has brainwashed the woman, like the man, he has charmed the man. But Daddy, I want to look at it in this other way. For family relationships that are not intimate or spouses, what the cause of violence in homes. I am an African child, a girl child from my family, that I grew up to know that as I am a girl child, I am an instrument which will be used by the family for their enrichment, because they have to sell me to marriage in order to sell me to marriage in order to at least improve of some of the things in our background. That's a cultural problem. Then now in our families too, you see the very girl children, if they are not giving them to marriage, they will give them over to some families to work, to do menial work in those families for payment that goes back to
the family,
to the families for payment.
Yes.
Yes, I'm particular about this our behaviors. Those are they are violent.
Yes, they are enslaving the children.
They are enslaving the
yes,
children.
These are other forms.
And sometimes when you send children like that, they go and they go to other hands. Trafficking comes in, slavery comes in, torture comes in. Yes, so those actions that we take against our children, now it is no longer only girl children. They send any child.
Yes,
you find boy children that are doing menial jobs. In fact, the law punishes that.
Yes,
the law punishes that. So we are not here for the law, but we should look at what exposes us to violence. Yes. So.
And when these children get frustrated, some of them end up in the streets.
Yes.
Sometimes you see children in the street and you don't look at what led to this. You just see a child in the street and you consider the child a bad child, and you give all sorts of names to the child. But if you want to go and look at the root cause,
that is domestic violence.
Yes.
Because when you take a child that you were supposed to send to school, schools are in different categories.
Yes.
A home should be able to recognize where their own level ends and make sure that they give the children the basic amenities at their level. So instead of taking a child to give to somebody who will use the child for hawking, who will use the child, maybe the family members of where the child have gone to stay to work, they will sexually abuse the child.
Yeah, and it's happening.
Yes, a lot is happening out here, and we need to be educated. Just that we should know what is good for us and how to place our needs.
Yes.
Yes, we shouldn't use our children to violate them. We shouldn't send them, expose them to violence.
Yes, because sending them to other people, principally to work for them, and those families pay you back. They pay to the family of those children.
Yes,
so you are sending your child as a slave.
That the child should work, let them educate the child.
Yes.
Some really go into a contract that they will be sending this money back to their families.
Yes, some cases it's even better that this child assists here, but consider this child as one of yours and send this child to be educated. That one is even better. Okay. Now let's look at, we are talking domestic violence, and there are different types of domestic violence. You even have this physical violence. Besides this physical violence that we're talking about, we have emotional violence, we have economic violence, we have different types of violence. And in one way or the other, this one type of violence leads to the other. So they are in a circle. So when we want to prevent this violence, it's not just a matter of looking at what is happening and address that specific situation, but let's look at the origin of that particular violence. What do we have to say about these different types of violence, or what happens to, what does domestic violence cause in the family?
Yes, talking about the different types of violence, just from the definition, as we did
look
say,
at the different types, and then look at what they cause in the family.
There are different types of violence. This violence may be physical. You have physical, you have sexual, you have verbal. You know, those are the different types of violence that that do exist. And look at them precisely, look at the different types and trying to see how you can, how they manifest. We take, for example, there is a coercive control or controlling the behavior. That's a type of violence. In this type, what are the physical, or what are the appearances? What are the things that you see? For example, coercive control or controlling behavior is that type of violence in which you don't impose or you don't impact a physical torture on the person, but rather you cause fear. You cause the person to be afraid.
That's psychological or emotional.
Yes, psychological.
You cause that's from your behavior. Your behavior scares the person. You see, I take for example, you can just be looking at the person with very wild eyes. You know, just imagine a father in a house, not so, with the children. Just the way you look at the child, it can instill fear into the child. You see that at that moment you are being violent without physically battering the child. So that is one of the types of violence. And then now you can isolate. That is, you can isolate the person. If you isolate somebody from the whole family or from the society, you cause fear into that person, and that is considered as a type of violence. Or you take unnecessary monitoring of the person. That is, at any given time, you are beside the person, monitoring the person and seeing what the person is doing. You see, there are even cases, especially in the Western world, where this type of violence occurs, and the court can even impose that you stay at least, let's say, a kilometer away from the person.
Yes.
You understand? But you keep on going towards the person, and every time that the person wants to turn around, he sees you. You see, that's the type of violence that you impose on the person, and then without necessarily having a physical contact, but you instill fear and all of that. So that is one of the types of violence that exists. And then the second one is the physical violence, which everybody knows, which is the commonest type of violence that exists. Physical violence, which includes battery, scratching, I don't know, biting, all of that. Fighters actually go in for physical fight. So
beating.
Yes, you beat your other partner or your children. You torture. That is the physical type. And maybe, Madam.
Yes, all of that.
Okay, all of them, they are there.
Said it.
Yes, and then there is also the sexual violence. This one comes in especially in the case of intimate partner violence. Okay?
And rape.
Yes, and you have intimate partner violence. It doesn't mean that because you are husband and wife, you can just have the sexual act with your wife or with your husband without his or her consent. At that moment, it will be considered as sexual violence. And then there is the case of rape, which you have just said. You see, where you have unconsented sex with somebody, especially the case of minors.
It's even worse now because people go for their children.
Yes, and people even have it with their children. And then there is another one, which is image-based abuse. That is pornography. If you expose people to pornography, it is a form of violence. You see, it goes towards sexual violence. You see, by just making them watch those images which they may not actually want, it is some sort of it is another form of violence.
Abusing the innocent minds.
Yes.
So all those things are very common now.
Yes, they are
very common now, especially this sexual violence. Sexual violence is very common. And I'm still thinking of what is happening in the minds of men. Yes, it is normal by creation that women, by their prostitution, some women, they grow up and they have this urge of prostituting. Yes, but there is something that is happening now, that men just go in for any woman they see.
Anything is good.
Yes. Even if it is a child, even if it is what. Yes. So when you look around, if you go to the prison cells and you start studying all the case files that are there, you would discover that 3/4 of the case files have to do with rape, sexual harassment, rape. And they go with a lot of punishment. The prison sentence is very, very heavy, from 20 years. It's very heavy to tell you that it is a very serious offense.
Serious.
But
issue.
I am surprised, because when you get there and you get in contact with the inmates, they will tell you, and they are regretting, but then they still cannot come out of the
urge.
Yes. What is happening? I feel that there is something wrong at the level of our families. We are not doing enough. How are we mentoring and grooming our sons? This sexual act was not supposed to be something like food that you sit and you just
want to eat.
It was not supposed to be like that. Because each time you come in contact with the situation, they will start to tell you that the devil used me, the devil used me. How are we not able to overcome this devil with the prayers that all families are praying and all churches are praying?
The devil comes only around you.
I don't understand how even the young children, you see a father has his own family, his wife and children. He goes to rape the child of a neighbor.
Yes.
You understand now? I don't understand it.
Yes.
And when you question it, if they do it to your own child, how will you feel?
Like,
he will stand like this. It's the devil that
yes, and that has used me. Okay.
Yes, the devil that used me.
Soon we'll ask them to bring that devil.
Yes. So I don't know. Mom, this is something that I find very, very serious and pertinent. Yes. I don't know what is happening.
Okay.
Yes.
That could still continue. And let me just let me just run it down so that we finish the types of violence which are stated, which I think they are still important for us to look. We look at verbal violence, verbal abuse. It is something that we may think that it is small, but it is something that we should draw the attention of our viewers, because it is very, very serious, especially in the cases of in the case of intimate partner violence. This verbal violence there becomes very, very degrading. Imagine you are today in the church getting married to your wife or to your husband, and you use all the beautiful words, say that you are the heart of my heart, you are this, I'll take you for better or for worse, and then tomorrow on that partner you start using very terrible, degrading verbal abuse.
Sometimes even in public.
Yes, in public.
Insult.
Yes, insults. You start insulting. Imagine
putting down, putting your
you look at
your
wife and your husband, you say, this good for nothing person.
You call yourself a man.
You call yourself a man.
So if men are standing here, you two stand.
Yeah.
So it's so funny.
When we use those words, we think that it is just words, but it is very, very degrading.
Far beyond.
Yes, and it can actually break down somebody. So we think that we should take note of that. And then there is also what we call spiritual and religious violence. Culture too should come in there. You see, if you start refusing your partner, for example, to practice her religion, okay, that is considered as a form of violence. Because imagine now we get married in the Catholic Church, very soon you find yourself in a different church, and you start forcing me to leave the Catholic Church and follow you there. And telling me that I've become a devil because I still want to keep on practicing my religion.
Yes.
At that moment, it is also considered as a form of violence. Yes. So that's I just wanted to draw our attention to such things. So
all of that, they have a lot to do with emotions and psychology.
Yeah.
All those things that you have named there.
Good.
When it happens to a partner, that partner will never be in a good marriage because psychologically,
yes,
it has a lot. Emotionally, it has a lot to do, and so we are supposed to take note of that. Daddy, I equally wanted to talk about economic violence.
Yes. Good.
Yes, denying somebody access or information on how to empower of him or herself economically. It often happens in our homes.
Yes.
So men, when they get married to women, they will not like them to know anything about money. You have to sit there. Even if you need something, they will come and give you and things.
Some even married women who are working and stop them from working. Yes. And I know some people
that's actually terrible.
Yes, I know some people who got married to their wives working.
Yeah, sure.
And afterwards, they stopped the wife from working.
Many of those
cases. And I know even those who, before they got married, they had to stop their work before the marriage. Yes, they had to stop their work before the marriage. And I know those who have refused to stop their work, and because of that, the marriage program had been cancelled.
Yes,
and they never got married again. Eh?
Yes, yes, and then it even gets worse when they are already married, and one of the partners tries to stop the other, and then if the person is refusing, generally it is the man who also wants to stop the woman. Yes, and when the woman says no,
it becomes problem.
It becomes a serious problem in our proceedings, or not proceedings, in our work of counseling to couples. we have come across so many couples that have those problems, and it is actually very, very serious that you find
posing serious problems
in the family.
Sometimes they don't even speak to each other just because of those things.
Because of that, because of the economic situation that one is struggling to prevent another. Yes, and generally when men do that, they don't see that as a form of violence.
No, they don't see it.
They just see, for them, they think it's just something normal, that it is their right, that the woman is supposed to stay in the house and work as a
housewife.
Yes.
Yeah, and they proudly say it. That's one thing that people should really know. When you are getting married to a full person.
Yeah.
And that full person has to bloom in the various aspects of his or her life.
Yeah.
But when you struggle, instead of helping that person bloom, you want to suppress the person, and then
it becomes
we start wondering what is your mind so long as marriage is concerned.
Yeah, it's because you want to dominate.
Yes.
If you do like that, you have a hidden agenda to dominate the other person in order to have control over the person.
Yes. Consider that the person even accepts to work, and a few days after the person accepts to stop work, and a few days after the person stops work, maybe you collapse or you have an accident or something happens and you die. What becomes of that woman and maybe the children that you have had? People think only 1 meter away from them.
Yes. And generally, when they even ask like that, and some women humbly accept and they stop work, the men they just end up becoming funny.
Yes.
They just end up becoming
that's
funny.
The funny part.
You see, to provide now for the home,
it will not be possible.
It will not be possible again. They have the means, but they will not want to provide.
Yes, it should just show that
that
they are in control. That's a very wild thought.
Some even they have the money to provide.
Yes,
but you see they will use it for other purposes that is not beneficial for the family.
For the family, good.
Take somebody that embarks on drinking alcohol. Or taking drugs, or prostituting, or doing things that are not necessary, which demands expenditure. Yes, it is violence against the other members of the family, because God has provided to you the means to bring up that family, but you are using it in a different way. It's an economic violence. So you see, it's all englobing.
Okay,
that is it. We need to look at that closely. We are thanking our friend here from Nigeria who is enjoying the program and is asking us to also tell our young ladies that dressing indecently is a form of violence.
For sure.
Yes, so
it's
asking us to make sure that we get to that.
Sexual harassment. That is sexual harassment.
Thank you, dear friend from Nigeria. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
So we should know that the way we dress is not only for ourselves.
Yes.
It has a message, and that message is interpreted in many different ways.
Yes.
So know that the way you interpret it should be a way that society and decent minds should interpret.
That manner of the dressing, it becomes a social violence. You are violating us socially.
Yes.
And there is something I want to come up with something about this indecent dressing.
Yeah.
Before, when we did not have the idea that we have to entice our men, there was nothing like indecent dressing.
Yes.
But when the doctrine started coming that you have to be attractive for your man, that is when indecent dressing came. Yes, because in meetings, in ladies' meetings, other mothers will come up and tell you that in the house you have to be in a sexy night dress.
I'm telling you, that's a teaching like now all over the place.
That's how, before, when we did not have those kind of mindset, the dressing was just modest. People were just modestly dressed at all times.
First of all, the African attire is a beautiful way of dressing.
I am asking that if me married like this, that I'm married to my husband, and he saw me, he admired my beauty, do I still have to do something to dress in sexy night dress before he will admire me in the house?
Yes, and we are not even talking about
but that
beautiful.
is what is helping us to, you understand, to feel that at all times you have to be in a kind of way for the man to attract the man. So I think that we should start rethinking
Yes, we
this
should
order.
really rethink it.
Yes, we should rethink it.
We
Because
should really rethink it, and that's one of the things that we have to discuss.
yes, and then when you, the mother, you start dressing that way because you are thinking that you want to attract your
Attract your
husband.
mother.
Yes.
Your daughters are
Who
modeling
dress-
after
yes,
that.
Yeah, sure.
that is
They are
sure.
modeling after it.
Because it's certain. Because
So
they
it
see
goes
what you are
out,
doing.
and that is why now nobody wants to dress formally. Nobody wants to dress well.
Yes,
Yes.
We don't talk about decent dressing
Dressing.
any longer. At
So-
first, we decency in our dressing was a serious call for concern, but now everybody
dresses anyhow. Okay.
everybody dresses and wants to show that they are your yet.
So indecent dressing by women is a sexual harassment.
Yes, we
supposed
are
to
harassing
know.
the men,
Yes.
and when you find yourself in an uncomfortable situation, you take that same man back to court. So while the men are called to have a control over themselves, the women are called to put on decent dresses. Now, looking at this situation and looking at what is happening or what has been happening in the past concerning violence, what is happening in the days of our saints, and what will be happening to us and to our children. One that Madam just come behind and paint a bit of picture about famous saints about whom we celebrate this issue of domestic violence time after time, and talk usually about the struggle to end violence because it affects children negatively. Yes, madam.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you. We just recently, on the 8th of February, celebrated the feast of Saint Josephine Bakita. She was a slave girl that was taken into slavery at the age of 6 and was sold over many times by different slave masters. So when after a while, when she went to a master who was not that wicked, or how we can put it, she finally gained her way out and became free and joined a convent of nuns, and she became a sister. But this it was not like she was from a poor home, like we have said here, that our poor backgrounds make us to send children to slavery or to some kind of degrading works. She was not that kind of girl. On the contrary, she was from a rich home, but maybe something happened that they sold her to
Perhaps,
slavery. She wasn't from a violent background. We just celebrate her without really going deeply into the history, but I know that she was not from a poor background, but she happened to have been sold as a slave at the age of 6, and it took her a greater part of her life in slavery until when she got to the slave master who freed her, and she became a Christian and entered the nunnery and became, after her death, Pope John Paul pronounced her a saint. So in the religious life that she embarked in, she was identified for so many virtues. Nice way of receiving people, nice way of doing her things, that is dedicated way of serving people, and being available for people, making sure that the less privileged are catered for and things. Yes, made her to be a saint. Yes, those qualities, those virtues in her, they pushed her up to become beatified and finally canonized as a saint. The International Day for the fight against trafficking, torture, and modern day slavery is celebrated on that 8th of February. And it is the day that the church celebrates this feast of Saint Josephine Bakita because of these her virtues. So they use this her feast to pray for the end of trafficking, torture, and slavery all over the world. Yes, so I happen to be a CWA, and we celebrate that every feast. Is one of our most celebrated feasts. It is a recent feast that we incorporated in our calendar of activity, but we actually do take it very seriously because it has to do with the ending, putting an end to violence, putting an end to torture, putting an end to trafficking, putting an end to modern day slavery. And those things are the things that we as mothers in our families and in our neighborhoods, we observe that they are taking place in the way that we have explained here. Yes, we sell our children without knowing. We give them out for torture without knowing. We treat them in many different ways without knowing that we are enslaving them. We cause our children to be babysitters at tender age without knowing that it is a modern day slavery. We do many things that are enslaving without knowing because we do it in a modern way. So we are praying after this for the intercession through these saints to intercede for us so that all these things we might have an understanding of what it is, the impact it has on our families, and that it should be ended. Maybe the government too, in their strife, will find a way to put an end to all of this, and in our families will understand what it takes to put an end to it. So
if I could just chip in something there, madam. We are very happy for Saint Josephine Bakita. Bakita, because in her own this situation of violence, she ended up well. Yes. Generally, for other children, it may not follow that. It may not end like that. So it is something wonderful. So we should continue to ask her to intercede and pray that this end to violence should become a reality. Because for all the children that go out there through this violent means, trafficking, sex abuse and all of that, some of them, they generally end up very badly. Very bad. We know of all these stories, how they are killed, their body parts sold and all of that. So it is something that the family should pray for, that Saint Josephine Bakita should continue to pray and intercede for us and for our families, so that this issue of violence in the family should stop. Because violence generally sends children onto the streets, sends them to become slaves and all of that. So that should be our prayer.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Thanks very much, Pride, watching us from Melon. Thank you for appreciating our program. My Pride says it's been a beautiful program. We'll be ending for today, and Pride will invite you next Sunday. We'll be there every Sunday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. to talk family, so that from day to day we struggle to see how our families can improve from the level where we are to a next level, so that we should be peaceful and stable. We thank everybody for being on with us. We thank Daddy Neps for coming from St. John of God Parish, Ponadikombo. We thank Madame Chimolo for coming from St. Anthony of Padua. We thank Jesse, who is out there making sure that the buttons are working in our favor. We thank the station manager for her supervision. And for my humble self right here, Tekla Suneba, anchor for the program. Family is all we have.
Family is the story of our origin.
Ciao.
Ciao.